Hello, how are we all doing? Um, well, the housing market. Um, the way I see things, and again, I'm not a economic expert. I just go off the people I know, the people I've known in my life, the people I've spoke to, and generally speaking, all the pubs and the nightclubs and the bars and the restaurants and the waitresses and all the people in sort of minimum wage jobs and all the people in retail, because I've worked in retail a lot of my life and they've always been minimum wage jobs. They're not well paying or nothing, but all those people, to my mind, who I have known, pretty much live within their means. There's nobody with two cars, three houses, caravans, boats. They just pretty much live on that level, if you will. They've always like caught the bus, or they've always like got the train, or they've lived near work and they've walked there, and they've spent the money at B&M bargains, and they've gone to Primark for the clothes. And these are generalizations. Don't come for me in these comments. So for the housing market, I don't see a lot of these people of having big houses. They just don't tend to, and a lot of them tend to live with the parents, or they have some council flat or something like that. Generalizations. So I don't think from these people losing their jobs that would affect the housing market that much. And I think for the area managers and the regional managers, if they shut down an odd branch here and there, what is underperforming, to some extent, those area managers and regional managers are people who are sort of safe for a bit longer, if that makes any sense. The people I have known who are farther up the ladder, and the area managers and the regional managers and people who are on good wages, if you will, those tend to be people who have more things. They don't tend to catch the bus. They do tend to have cars. They do tend to have second houses. They do tend to live in quite a nice house or quite a nice area. But they also have a hell of a lot more debt than the person, as I've known, on a minimum wage. Their bills, their outgoings are way more. They do tend to have credit cards. They do tend to like live a bigger life, if you will, and have more holidays and live, with more expense. The way I see this is, I think we'd be a while before we trickle down to these people being in trouble, because I think they have more assets more often than not. They tend to have credit cards more often than not. They tend to have things they can sell, that I see as well, that again takes a while before some of this trickles down. Also, if somebody loses their job, they can put back payments. They can say, I'll have a 6 months holiday. So again, I think all these things sort of factor in a little bit of before this sort of hits. And if somebody's been in their house quite a long while, and they've put time and effort into that house, and they've spent time doing the garden and doing the rooms and decorating, they don't tend to just pack up and leave, obviously, straight away. It would take a while. What would influence that? Depending on how bad things got financially for them, depending how quickly they could get another job, depending how much they plunge into negative equity. Do I think there's a big crash coming? Absolutely. And I would say we're a good 40-50% drop. And it's depending how people work this out. How long have they been there? Do they think to themselves, you're better off cutting your losses now, going living with friends or relatives, or renting for a little while, and maybe letting this crash happen and then buy something cheaper? For example, if you put you've got a £200,000 house, and you got out of the thing, that could conceivably be 100,000 in 2-3 years. So I guess you've got to work out how this is going. But I do think we would definitely see a crash. I do think it's definitely coming. I just think it takes a while for everything to trickle down, and the knock-on effects as well. For every single person who's in retail who maybe loses their job, then to some extent that is knock-on effect, that they obviously then aren't buying holidays, though these obviously people aren't buying a car. It just knocks on to every other industry, and it does come. Definitely big crashes on the way. and you've got to try and position yourself as well as you can, so you can sort of take advantage of what's worth buying, what's worth taking on, and what areas are going to be better for you. Myself, I would think you're better off staying out of any sort of trouble spots, any sort of flare up areas, anything that is going to see a lot of unrest, because again, as I think we get further down the line, the unrest is just going to escalate. And especially when we go into like times where the vaccines are forced, which again I think is coming, that just leads to more unrest. Can the vaccines be forced? Absolutely. As much as we try and resist, there's no way on God's earth they're spending all these millions and billions of pounds trying to bring all this stuff in, and no way half of the government is invested in this and got shares in this for them just to say, well, we'll leave it, or there's only a handful of people turned up for it. And absolutely not. They can definitely go down the road of saying you must test. It is mandatory. For anybody who signs on or receives benefits, they could say, listen, you've got a month. There's a little box appears, you need to put your ID number in for the vaccine that you've had, or the payments are stopping. Pretty simple really, isn't it? So yeah, and then they can go down the road of anybody who's at work. Forgetting the Inland Revenue, they could just say, listen, we need your number to put your wages through. The list goes on. You could need an ID number to go shopping. It's coming. I don't really see any way that it's not coming. I don't really see that we're suddenly fine now, or we can take the masks off, or everybody's back to normal. That's not going to be the case. And I think there's a lot of mess, for want of a better word, ahead of us. A lot of uncertainty for many years to come. And I think all we've got to do is try and position ourselves so the pain isn't as bad as it could be, if that makes any sense. So yeah, and that's all for now. I wish you all the very, very best. Please keep safe out there. Please look after yourselves, look after your family, keep your mental health right. That's probably the most important thing. And yeah, wish you well. Bye.